And thanks so much for being with us again here for the Twins Wrap, brought to you by Jefferson Lines. It's week 2, but it's week 1 with me talking with Dick Bremer from the Minnesota Twins television broadcast team. Hello, Dick. How you been?
Real good. Anxious to get this season started. It's, I think, going to be a fun one for Twins fans.
Yeah, that's for sure. A 1-0 victory today over a Baltimore team that really is expected not to do much. A lot of expectations for the Twins. It's so early, it's hard to read anything, but there are some things I like from this team. What do you think so far, Dick?
Yeah, I think they're pitching awfully well. Kenta Maeda today looked in mid-season form. Alex Colomé, Taylor Rogers each had good outings, and so yeah, you're not interested, especially this year when they're sometimes playing as few as 5 innings. You're not interested in the wins or losses, but you're looking for the components of a good team that you hope to be able to see a lot of when the regular season starts. And I think the Twins have seen that. Josh Donaldson's been hitting the ball hard today again. Miguel Sano hit the ball hard a couple of times. So these are all things that bode well for what should be a really fun regular season.
I would think that there's going to be so much focus on what's going on with the offense in the new ball, right? I mean, the fact that the ball maybe not be blasting, but I mean, so far, these guys, no big surprise, they're still hitting the ball pretty hard.
Yeah, I think if Miguel Sano hits it hard, it's still going to go a long, long ways. But they did say that they're going to dial back the baseball, the dynamics of the baseball, the ballistics, if you will. And so we'll see what happens. But the Twins still should be, among the league leaders in home runs. They weren't last year. The home run totals really came down. But I think a lot of what we saw last year, Derek, can simply be explained that, you tend to forget, but everybody was kind of fast forwarding through spring training, trying to get ready for the season. It impacted the pitchers. It impacted the hitters. So hopefully with a full spring training this year, what we'll see is more what we saw in 2019 from a lot of the Twins hitters.
I don't think there's any question that you and I were as frustrated as anyone about Michael Pineda in 2019, getting busted for a performance-enhancing drug or masking agent, whatever it might have been. But he's come back. He pitched pretty well last year, and he's looks good so far this spring. He is going to be a key factor in this rotation, isn't he?
Yeah, and there are going to be a lot of key factors in the Twins rotation and every rotation. I'll be fascinated to find out, how teams handle their pitching staffs this year, just because it was a short season last year. Even those who were healthy and weren't suspended, as Pineda was, they never really got a full season of work. And so now it would seem unrealistic to me to have the Barrioses of the world and people like that go back out and, pitch 200 or so innings. I know Jose has, stated that as a goal. But, with so much money being invested in pitchers, whether it's, Barrios or, even Jay Happ, they're going to be very careful. The Twins will be, and the other 29 teams will be with their arms for fear of, guys, being stretched beyond what their body now is accustomed to because the season was so short last year.
You mentioned Barrios, a lot of talk about him getting some type of a contract extension. Would not be a big surprise. We saw that with Kepler and Polanco not too long ago, but I think that would be nice. They've wanted this guy to be the lead guy in this rotation for a while. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out because he has yet to really get there, but you can see it's there, right? I mean, that's always been kind of the thing with Barrios.
Well, yeah, but then, of course, if you're his agent, you're going to go, well, look, he was in the playoffs. He gave up 1 run over 5 innings, looked to be very, very sharp, and you took him out.
Well,
So,
yeah.
as we said last year, I think when we did the show, the one thing that's missing from Barrios is that signature game. And it looked like he might have been on his way to that game last year in the playoffs, but he was taken out, and then Twins ended up losing, and that was his only postseason start. So, it works both ways. You can say, well, yeah, he hasn't achieved his potential, but yet when he has had games like that that could define his, realized potential, well, then he's taken out after 5 innings because the attitude that the Twins have and a lot of teams is they don't want a starting pitcher, regardless of how good he is, to face a lineup a third time.
Yeah, and I think, and Buxton, of course, he's kind of another one, right, where he's been injured a lot, but they certainly want to keep him for a long time.
Well, yeah, I would expect. I'd be surprised, frankly, at this point, if the Twins didn't reach an agreement with Byron on a long-term basis. I think they realize, and the rest of baseball realizes. I know Twins fans realize how important he is to their plans, and so that would be a nice one to take care of. And then at one of these years, we hope it's this year, he'll be out there for 550 at bats, and we'll get a fuller view, a moving picture view of what we've only seen snapshots of so far in his career.
How excited are you to see, as a purist of baseball, to see Buxton out in center field, and obviously Simmons now at shortstop, moving Polanco to second? I mean, that is about as good as it gets defensively up the middle.
Yeah, and then Twins are pretty well set behind the plate too, with Garver and Ryan Jefferson. So it's been said for a long time, the good teams defensively are strong up the middle. Well, the Twins look like they'll be that. And then the one thing to keep in mind, of course, is Polanco switching from shortstop to second base. But the way the game is played now, shortstops spend a lot of time on the right side of second base anyway, and second basemen have spent a lot of time on the third base side of second base as well. So I don't know how much of a transition it'll be for Jorge, but I think he'll be a very good defensive second baseman as well.
Dick, I'm curious about, I think one of the biggest questions coming in, because they finished strong, is the bullpen. And it finished strong in 2019, I should say. And then we had some questions mark at the end of 2020, right? I mean, so this has been kind of a roller coaster ride with this bullpen, because early on in 19, it was, oh boy, I don't know about this. And then they really stepped up and got the job done in 19. And last year was kind of herky-jerky as well. That's probably the most curious part of this team.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot been made, I know, in Twins territory about the Twins losing Trevor May, signing with the Mets. There's another guy that was a really key guy for them last year that they did not have this year, and that's Tyler Clippard. He really was a good addition to the Twins bullpen last year, was actually more effective against left-handers than right-handers, which is odd for a right-handed pitcher. So there will be some cavities in the Twins bullpen, but they think they've got some guys that they brought in. Alex Colomé is going to be a huge addition for the Twins, and some guys internally who they figure can fill a relief role. So, over the years, it's been pretty obvious, Derek, that the most fluid part of any organization is their major league bullpen. It's become a rather nomadic occupation in baseball, other than closers, and sometimes even they're swapped out, as was the case with Colomé. Did a really good job with the White Sox the last 2 years, and now he'll be picking up some saves for the Twins. I think the Twins bullpen, when it's all said and done, will be just fine.
You mentioned something there too. I think that's very interesting. Is there's always some kid that comes up, right? And there's a lot of minor leaguers, let's face it, didn't play at baseball at all in 2020. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see who might step up, and they just can't send back down to St. Paul, which is still going to get weird to say, send back down to St. Paul. But that is going to be quite a story, I think, this year.
Yeah, and I think there will be a lot of, unfortunately, there'll be a lot of injured list situations that will cause a lot of flexibility and mobility between AAA and the big league club. And as you referenced, it'll be a lot easier for the Twins because now their AAA team will be a 10-minute Uber ride from Target Field. And so we'll see a lot of player movement over the course of the year. And, you brought up an interesting point. I think everybody is expecting Alex Kirilloff to be a really big component for the Twins this year. Very likely, I think, replacing Eddie Rosario in left field. But you have to allow for the fact, as you said, he didn't play any games last year. And the minor league prospects who will be asked to play up a level than maybe intended or they would have played at last year, it's going to be an adjustment for them because, as you know, baseball is a grind, particularly at the big league level. And so there's going to be a lot of situations where I would think the Kirilloffs of the world and every team will have a player like that, will have an impact on the team. But just the wear and tear of a 162-game season, which we all hope we have, is going to take its toll.
Yeah, no question. It is going to be interesting. My final thing for you, Dick, is just that whole, as we mentioned, St. Paul. It's got to be quite an advantage. I mean, you broadcast the Twins with Salt Lake City and Rochester, New York, and we go down the line, right? I mean, this is quite a deal to get your AAA guys just down the road, literally.
It's a bit of an exaggeration, but it seemed like every time we were in Seattle, they would need a player, and they would just summon them from Tacoma, which is 3 hours away, something like that. Same too with Kansas City and Omaha. And the Twins, when they were on the West Coast and needed a player, they had to get a player from Rochester, New York, through Detroit. And by the time he landed in Anaheim, he was in no position to help the team. So, no, this will be absolutely huge. It's not just when the team is at home, but when the team is on the road and they'll need a player, they've got, this is flight schedules are altered to be sure, but this is still the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport is still a hub airport. It'll be much easier to get players who are playing in St. Paul for the Saints to Cleveland, wherever, than it was when they were marooned sort of out in Rochester, New York.
And how anxious are you to see fans at Target Field? I mean, that's going to be fun, right?
Well, I'm warning viewers who will be watching our telecast, because I know myself well enough to know that when the Twins open at home, and I'm looking out at 10,000, 12,000, whatever the number is, I know I'm going to get emotional, because it will be a sign, and it's a sporting event, right? And we've had much larger issues to deal with than having games with no fans in attendance. But it will be a very clear-cut sign for me that maybe we're over the hump, and that we are taking a large step forward toward, recovering from the pandemic. Yeah, it'll be nice to see fans and hear fans, but for me, it will be what it symbolizes in terms of where we are now compared to where we were a year ago when the pandemic started.
Yeah, no question. Well said. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Dick, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, we'll do it next Tuesday, and I'll actually be in Fort Myers by then.
All right, looking forward to it. Enjoy the sun.
All right, Derek.
Dick Bremer, the voice of the Minnesota Twins on the television side. Again, the Twins wrap each and every Tuesday, 5:45 on KFGO. Brought to you by Jefferson Lines.